How many of you want to make more money? Influence people on a whole new level? Raise your hand if that's you. Come on. This crowd reacts. Let me tell you now is only leadership skill. O&E that if you master it will unlock every single door in your life. Relationships, transform your boost your confidence, unshakable. And I'm not talking about charismatic strategy or even intelligence. I'm talking about emotional intellectual superpower. And today, maybe I'll show you exactly why it's the most thing you'll ever develop and how to use it to create the life you've only dreamed of. Let me tell you, most people are not as in control of your emotions as you think. At least not until you start recognizing what triggered. You ever find yourself snapping at maybe someone cuts you off in traffic and suddenly your whole day feels ruined? Or you get an email from your boss, a tiree, and your stomach tightens. Now you're in a bad mood, spiraling, and don't even realize why. Sound familiar? Those moments aren't random. They are emotional triggers, cues from the outside world that tap into something deeper within you. And unless you identify and understand them, they will run your life. That's the truth. The most magnetic people, the ones who handle chaos with calm, they're not superhuman. They've just learned to recognize their guys stepping on them. Let me take you into a real life example. Imagine this, you're coming home from a long, exhausting day at work, you're mentally drained piece, a hot shower, maybe a moment on the couch, and the second you walk in, your partner says, "Hey, can you take out the trash?" And suddenly, something inside you flares. You feel unappreciated, unseen. You mutter something sharp like, "Can I just walk in the door before..." You didn't explode because of the trash. You exploded because of a trigger. Maybe years of feeling overburdened. Maybe a need for acknowledgement that you... Now, what could have been a 2-second favor turns into a 2-hour argument. Sound familiar? Here's where the leadership magic begins. Then in that moment, you had the self-awareness to pause and say, "Wow, I'm feeling frustrated. I think I'm tired and need a moment." And a moment that 1 second of reflection changes the entire tone of your response. It flips the story. Instead of reacting, leading. You start leading your emotions, your autonomy, your life. Let's bring it into the business world. I once coached a client who ran a successful company with his executive team. He told me they just don't get it. Every time I give feedback, maybe they take it personally. It's excessively uncovered. We uncovered that his trigger was being ignored. Growing up, he was the youngest of 5 siblings. So in meetings, if someone didn't immediately agree with him or didn't have his suggestions, his old story. No one listens to me. Once he read with intensity, once he recognized that pattern, everything changed. He began to pause when that feeling arose. Wasn't his past repeating? It was just a moment of misalignment. He learned to respond instead of react. Maybe suddenly his team felt heard, not having up, offering better ideas, and performance skyrocketed. That's the power of knowing your triggers. See, every trigger is actually an offer to grow. A chance to go from unconscious reaction to intentional leadership. Because when you understand what sets you off, you reclaim your power. You stop letting track and start using them as fuel to lead yourself and others more effectively. Think about your own life. How many arguments by missed opportunities came not from logic, but from an emotion that hijacked you in the heat of the moment? How many times have you looked back at that? Or, why did I let that get to me? Imagine if instead you could walk into every situational clarity. Imagine knowing exactly what emotions were rising in you and why. You'd become the calm in the storm, the grounded one in chaos. You speak ponded one in Zuzuli. You'd start becoming the kind of person people trust because they feel safe around you. Let me be real with you, mastering happened overnight. It takes courage, it's reflection, it's awareness, but the reward, it's massive. It's not just about managing stress. It's about transferring your relationships, growing your influence, and building unshakable self-contracting you Troy powerful leaders have. So how do you start? Simple. Start journaling your reactions. When you feel your blood pressure rise, when your chest tightens, pause. Ask yourself, what just triggered me? Old belief or unmet need is being poked. This is key. Breathe. Remind yourself that you are not your trigger. You are not your past. You are not your stress. You are leaving a moment like this as a rep in the emotional gym. Know your triggers. Own your emotions. And I promise you, This skill, this awareness will not only make you winner, will make you unstoppable. And that's when your life begins to change. We live in a world that moves fast. Temptation buzz buzzing, people talking over each other, meetings back to back, life constantly demanding our attention. In this chaos, it's easy to forget one of most people, our breath. Most people speak the moment emotion hits. They react before they reflect. And in that split second, maybe old story, when emotion drives the wheel. Things get then taken back. We've all been there. Maybe you've had a long day. Tension's been building under the surface. And suddenly your coworker makes you wrong way. Without thinking, you fire back. Maybe it's sarcastic. Maybe it's defensive. Maybe it's just too sharp. And now the room goes silent. The energy shift to late. That the problem isn't what they said. This is how you respond. And it all happened because you can take 3 seconds. That's all it takes. A deep breath. A pause. A moment of awareness before speaking. In that breath, everything changes. Your mind recalibrates. Your emotions settle enough for your inner leader to take charge. Not your inner child. Maybe not what your fear, not your frustration. Grow up becomes a breakthrough. Let me give you a real world example. I once worked with a woman named smart, driven, respected. But she had a pattern. In high pressure situations, she would dominate conversations. She'd interrupt, talk over people, and she wasn't doing it out of arrogance. She was reacting out of anxiety. Her internal fear was, if I don't speak now, I'll lose control. That fear drove her control. Once we worked on building a simple habit, just one breath before speaking, her leadership style transformed. She told me I started listening better. I gave people space. And I was shocked how much more they reached instead of pushed. That's the power of breathing before you speak. Here's the truth, words are energy. Maybe, and once they leave your mouth, they breathe them back in. But when you take a breath before you speak, you give yourself a gift. The power to choose your response, not be controlled by your action. Let it on a whole more personal level. Imagine a parent coming home from work. They're tired, drained, and walk into a mess. Toys every mess. The child is bouncing off the walls, and in that moment, the parent yells, can't you just behave for 5 minutes? I imagine that same parent, same situation, but before they say anything, they pause. They take one deep breath. Their tone softens. They kneel down, look I don't see, and say, hey, I had a hard day. Can we clean this up together? Same out tense as night and day. That breath turned potential damage into connection. It turned stress into leadership. Maybe that 1 second shifted the entire amount of room. The breath is more than just air. It's awareness. It's a bridge between reaction and wisdom. It's what separates an emotional outburst. And in a world that glorifies speed and immediacy, leaders are the ones who know how to soar what intention. Now I get it when you're in the heat of the moment. Taking a breath sounds simple, but Fiegel screams, say something. Defend yourself. Be heard. But your true power, your real leader, lies in the space between the stimulus and your response. That space is where emotional intelligence is born. That space is your edge. Think of it like this is like a chess match. If you move your piece too quickly without strategy, you risk the whole game. But maybe if you breathe, observe. Not just the moment, but the trust, the respect, and the influence that lasts. There's a reason the Navy SEALs, some of the professionals on the planet, are trained to breathe intentionally under fire, because control over your breath is control over your mind is control over your performance. This isn't just emotional fluff. It's neuroscience. Breathing activates your parasympathetic story. I'm safe. I got this. It gives you access to logic, empathy, and creativity. The tools of true leadership. In that meeting, that argument, that difficult conversation, pause. Feel your feet on the floor. Inhale through your nose, slow and steady, just a little longer than you inhale. And then speak from presence, not panic. It's a simple shift, but it's a powerful one. Because in that breath, you become more than jets. You become someone who leads. You become the calm in the storm. You become the person others look to. And in this fast-paced, emotionally charged word, that kind of leadership, that's rare. That's valuable. Maybe, and that's unforgettable. So in that speak in the heat of motion, remember you always have a choice. Breathe first, lead second. And watch your entire world begin to change. There is a voice inside your head that speaks than anyone else ever will. It's in the quiet moments. It's there when you wake up. It's there when you fail. When you win, when you're about to try some new, when that voice says this can shape your entire life. This is your inner dialogue, and mastering it is one of the most you will ever develop. Let me be clear, that voice isn't just background noise. It's not just random thoughts. That voice is your constant coach. Or break you. It can be the voice that says, "You've got this," or the one that whispers, "Who do you think you are?" Now here's the people don't even realize they're listening to the wrong voice. They go through their days letting a fearful, doubtful, judgmental inner voice call the shoulds. Judgment when they procrastinate, when they hesitate, when they hold back, when they know they're meant for more. Let me take you into a real moment. Imagine you're about to give a speech. Your heart's pounding. Your palms are sweating. You've rehearsed. Suddenly your mind goes blank. Then suddenly you mess this up. What if they laugh? What if you forget everything? Right there in that moment, your leadership isn't being tested by your inner dialogue. And if you don't take control of it, that fear-based voice will win. You will shrink. You'll play small. You'll play the full forward.
Imagine this instead. Same situation, same nurse.
But this time, you've trained your inner voice. You hear it say, "You've done the work. You were made for this moment." That shift in internal language shifts your physiology. You stand taller. Your breathing steadies. You are deliver like a pro. That's the power of mastering your inner dialogue. We all have stories playing in our heads. Some of those stories were written when we were told, "You're too sensitive." And now, as an adult, you shut down your emotions in meetings, thinking they're a weakness. Maybe kept material. And now, every time you're given responsibility, you second guess yourself. Those stories didn't come from truth. They came as opinion. But here's the good news, you can rewrite the script. I worked with a client named Jordan, brilliant cable. But every time he was up for a promotion, he'd sabotage himself. He'd come up with reasons why. Wasn't digging deep. We found the root. His inner dialogue was stuck in a loop from felt he had to prove himself constantly. His inner voice was saying, "You're never enough unless you achieve more." Recognize that. We started training a new voice, one that said, "You're already enough." You lead from who you are, not just what you do. Within 6 promoted. He started mentoring others with confidence he never had before. That's what happens when you master your all you or stop letting old wounds run new decisions. You stop waiting for permission. You stop playing small. Your inner dialogue is your emotion doubt. You'll free every time life challenges you if it's set to power, clarity, and courage. Maybe that was your rise. No matter how high the store, the deal. Mastering it isn't about lying to yourself. It's not about fake positivity or telling yourself everything's great when it's not. It's what that empowers action. Language that keeps you grounded. It's saying, "This is hard, but I've done hard things before." It's saying, "But I'm prepared." It's saying, "I don't have to be perfect. I just think about it." Every major decision you've ever made was preceded by a conversation with yourself. Every risk, every relationship, every turning point, they're first influencing you. So why wouldn't you train it like a muscle? Start listening to how you speak to yourself. Would you talk to your best friend the way they're? If not, it's time to raise the standard. Talk to yourself like someone you deeply believe in. Because once you do, something incredible happens. You begin becoming not the one you used to be. Mastering inner dialogue doesn't just improve your mindset. It changes how you lead, how you connect. It's what allows you to walk into a boardroom, a classroom, a negotiation, or a conversation with quick clarity. So the next time that inner voice bursts doubt, pause, take a breath, and choose a new line. Choose power. Choose truth. Because grow dialogue, you stop being your biggest critic, and you become your strongest ally. And that right there is the beginning of true leadership. One of the most powerful and liberated form in leadership and relationships in everyday life is the habit of asking before you judge. Maybe that was we live in a world that's quick to read quick, even quicker to label. Someone says something we don't like, and instantly we've made up a story. He's arrogant. She's lazy. But here's the truth, and more often than not, our assumptions are wrong, and they're based not the full picture. Leadership, real leadership, begins when you seek to understand before you seek to be understood. It begins when you slow down long enough to ask, what's really going on here? That was that pause, that question, that moment, the curiosity, it changes everything. Let me paint a picture for you. A team leader walks into the office and notices Marcus is quiet. He's usually upbeat, involved, and ready to go. But today, he's off. He barely says hello. During a meeting, he gives short let up. The leader feels a spark of irritation. Her mind starts spinning. He's disengaged, probably not committed anymore. Is he even working as hard as he used to? Even reevaluate his role? But instead of acting on that narrative, she decides to ask before she judges. She pulls him aside after the meeting. Noticed you seemed a little off today.
Everything okay?
And then the truth comes out. Marcus's mother had been rushed to the hospital before. He was up all night, terrified, running on 2 hours of sleep. He didn't want to make a big deal of it. Emotionally, he was hanging by a thread. Not what would have happened if that leader had gone with her judgment instead of her curiosity. She might have criticized him, added pressure, or questioned his perform, missed the humanity in the situation. When you ask before you judge, you honor the human being behind the behavior. We are so quick to interpret action experience. Someone is late to a meeting and we instantly think they're careless. Someone doesn't return a call and we assume we're being... A friend cancels plans and we assume they don't care. But how often do we pause and say, maybe there's more to the story? You see, it's automatic. It gives us a false sense of control, like we understand the situation, like we figured it out. But leadership, it's about being effective. And effectiveness comes from understanding, not assumption. I'll share a personal moment. Years ago, I was a young executive who was dealing with conflict on her team. She told me about one of her team members who heard her in meetings. He's always pushing back, she said. I think he's trying to undermine me. I asked her, have you talked to him about it, Derry? I've just been keeping my distance. So I challenged her, instead of labeling him as difficult, ask him what's going on. Get curious. The next week, she came back with a completely different energy. You won't believe it, she said. We had coffee and I asked him straight, points you often challenge in meetings. Can I ask what that's about? And he said, honestly, I admire you. You're sharp. I just want to contributing value. Sometimes I feel like the only way I can is by pushing buck. What she had interpreted as undermining was actually admiration and insecurity tangled together. That's the power of asking before judging. It builds trust. It reveals truth. We all walk around carrying invisible battles, internal storms no one else can see. Your colleague might be struggling with your friend might be battling anxiety. That person who seems cold may just be protecting a wounded heart. You never know the full story. Until is magical when you ask from a place of authentic curiosity, not interrogation or accusation. People open up. They feel safe. They feel seen. And when people rise, now this isn't just about being nice. This is about being emotionally intelligent. Maybe that was your old story. This is about teams that communicate and communities that heal instead of hurt. It's about showing up as a leader, not with all the answers, with deeper questions. So the next time it annoys you, surprises you, don't react, don't label, don't judge. Take a breath and ask. Ask them how they're doing support. Ask if there's something you're not seeing. Because behind every behavior is a belief. Behind every action is a story. And not to hear that story, you may not only change how you see them, you may change their entire day or even their life. That's leadership. That's power. Action. So don't judge the cover. Ask about the pages. Because real connection begins the moment replaces judgment. Words are powerful, yes. But it's not just people remember, it's how you say it. Your tone is your emotional fingerprint. It's the invisible message that rides on. It often speaks louder than anything you actually say. The truth is, people may forget your exact words, but they'll never forget how you it's shaped by your tone. Have you ever said something totally innocent, but it landed the wrong way, and you can told your partner, what's for dinner? And suddenly they snap back with, why don't you make it yourself? Mean anything rude, but your tone might have carried tension, impatience, or even subtle condescension. And that's, we often think communication is all about clarity of language, but the real magic or the real damage orgy we wrap around our words. You can say, I'm proud of you, and fill someone with joy. Or you can say those same words with least sarcastic tone and leave someone feeling unseen, even rejected. Maybe your tone reveals more about your emotion ever could. It tells people whether you're calm or anxious, present or distracted, confident or insecure. And in leadership, that emotional situation, take a real world situation. A manager who needs to give feedback to a team member. The words are well crafted. They say, I work on the project. There were a couple of things I think we can improve next time. Sounds fine, right? But if their tone is cold, rushed, and the message doesn't land as encouragement, it lands as criticism. The team member walks away feeling deflated, not empowered. Now flip the script. Imagine it's delivered with warmth, eye contact, and steady presence. The words are the same, but now the tone carries respect. Maybe it communicates, I'm in your corner. The person feels supported, motivated, ready to grow. That's the power of tone. It's not just about work either. It is the bridge or the barrier. A spouse says, did you pick up the kids? If the tone is gentle, it's just a question. But if it's sharp, if it's an accusation, it becomes a trigger. Conflict flares, not because of the question, but because of how it was asked. Your tone can diffuse a conflict or connection or create distance. And the wild part is most people aren't even aware of their tone. They're too caught up in stress, Ujinji. They're just notice the energy behind their words. That's why great leaders emotionally train themselves to become masters of tone. They understand that leadership is a journey. It's about creating connection. And that connection starts with the emotion behind the message. I'll share a story with you. I was once a business owner who was struggling to retain employees. He said, I'm clear with my team. I tell them exactly what I want. But when we watch him speaking in a meeting, something became obvious. His tone was harsh, clipped, almost militaristic. There was no warmth, no encouragement. No one pointed out. He was shocked. He had no idea. He thought he was just being efficient, but his team wasn't hearing clarity. They were feeling pressure. That tone was creating an emotional wall. Once he started softening his delivery, adding curiosity and compassion into his, people leaned in more. The culture improved, ideas flowed. Why? Because people felt safe. Safety. That's what tone creates. Or judges listen to your words. They read your emotional state. And if your tone tells them, I'm tense or I'm annoyed or I don't really care, they'll shut down. But if your tone says, I see you, I respect you, or where will open up. So how do you become more aware of your tone? Start by listening to yourself. Record your voice, play it back. How do you tone under pressure when you're excited? When you'll start to notice patterns. Maybe you speak faster when you're anxious, flat, when you're overwhelmed, or maybe you have a habit sarcastic when you're uncomfortable. Awareness is the first step. The next, before you speak, take a breath, ground yourself, ask, what energy am I bringing into this moment? If you're new to your intention, sound inspired. If you want to show love, sound loving. Don't just deliver words. Deliver feelings. When you master your tone, your words start to carry more weight. People trust you more. They listen more deeply. They feel your presence. That's when you're transactional to transformational. So yes, your words matter, but your tone, that's the secret sauce. It's what makes people feel seen, heard, valued, turns conversations into connections. And it's one of the most underestimated tools in emotional intelligence. Never forget how you say it is often more important than what you say. Your tone is your emotional signature. Let it say something worth remembering. Empathy is not just a soft skill, or it's a superpower, one of the most underestimated forces in leadership and human connection. In a world that often values speedy over emotion and productivity over people, empathy becomes a rare and powerful differentiator. It's what sets great leaders apart. It's what brings people together, and more than anything else, it's what reminds us that behind every face we as being with struggles, dreams, fears, we'll never fully know unless we choose to feel with them. Empathy isn't about agreeing with people, pleasing them, or even liking every behavior. Empathy is about understanding. It's the courage to slow down and say, I may be in your shoes. I'm willing to feel what it might be moment of understanding. That heart-to-heart awareness has the power to change everything. Let me take you into a scene you've probably got to work, and your coworker is acting distant. She's usually friendly, but today she barely acknowledges you. Maybe your first instinct might be to get her problem. You wonder, why is she acting cold? But now imagine you lead with empathy instead. You pause, you observe, and instead of judging, "Way, you seem a little off today," her eyes fill up. She's been up all night with her sick child. She's overwhelmed, exhausted, trying to hold it together, and her entire perspective shifts from irritation to compassion, from distance to connection. That's empathy. It doesn't take hours. It doesn't require, just takes a moment, a willingness to see the person behind the behavior. And when you do that, walls come down. Trust is built, respect grows, and the space other person becomes sacred. I once worked with a company where the culture was struggling. High turnover, low morale, constant miscommunication, the leadership strategic, but there was a missing ingredient. Empathy. People didn't feel seen. They felt like cogs in a machine. We began a leadership training that didn't metrics or strategy, but with emotional intelligence. One exercise was simple but profound. Sit with a colleague for 5 minutes answering about you that most people don't know. And then an interruption, no advice. Just present. What happened was incredible. People's financial stress, secret dreams, securities they'd never voiced. And suddenly, coworkers who had spent years sitting next to them began to see each other as human beings, not just job titles. Empathy changed the game. Productivity rose. Communication became real. People started as they were told to, not because they felt valued. Here's the truth most people miss in empathy isn't weakness. It's not soft. It's not a luxury. It's foundational to everything that matters in leadership. Because when people feel understood, maybe become loyal, when they feel safe, they feel cared for, they care back with that commitment, with energy. Think about your own life. Who are the people you remember most? The teachers, coaches, friends. It's not the ones who knew the most. It's the ones who saw you, who heard you, who believed in you when you dip Pan B in action. That's what leaves a mark. It's also worth mentioning, empathy is just as powerful in the two when conflict arises, when emotions run high. In those moments, most people react with judgment, anger, defensiveness. But a true leader leans into empathy. I remember coaching a manager who had made a mistake from an employee, a costly error that affected an important client. He was furious, ready to unleash, but he took a beat. He called the employee eyes and said, "I want to understand what happened from your point of view." The employee broke down. Maybe he didn't make excuses. He took full reshared how overwhelmed he'd been, how he was juggling too many projects, how scared he was to speak up. That conversation could have ended instead, and it ended with a plan, accountability, and a renewed sense of respect. Because empathy doesn't mean avoiding hard truths, delivering them with heart. And here's the beauty of empathy is learnable. You don't have to be born with some edge to practice presence. Ask questions, listen without interrupting. Let go of the need to fix or control. Just be there, be human. When you be yes, relationships that are real, teams that are united, environments where people want to stay, grow, and contribute. Empathy isn't about you, but it transforms you. It's you. Strengthens your leadership more than any title ever will. So when in doubt, slow down. Look closer. Ask, what might they be feeling right now? But the effort to understand is more powerful than you realize. Because empathy, when practiced consistently, changes others, it changes you. In the split second between what happens upon there lies your greatest power. Most people life on autopilot, reacting to everything that comes their way. A harsh snapback, a stressful email, a delay in traffic, they lose it. Reactions are knee and jerk, impulsive and usually emotional. But great leaders, empowered individuals, they train those. Is that different, subtle, is absolutely transformational. Let me tell you something that might challenge you. Your reaction is rarely about what's happening right, it's about what's already inside you. That traffic jam, the real issue, was you've been carrying for days. But that co-worker's tone isn't what's up, someone would have not feeling respected. Reactions are often unconscious patterns. Habits shaped by our past, our fears, our insecurities. They're fast and hard. They cost us relationships, credibility, peace of mind. But a response that's conscious. It's intentional. It comes from awareness and minutes, not from a way to pause. You breathe and you choose your next move. Instead of letting your emotions hijack the moment. Let's take a real life example. Imagine, you worked hard, proud of it. You're proud of it. And then your boss gives one feedback. This isn't what I expected. Your chest heats up. Your inner voice goes, how dare they? After all that, will the reaction work? Oh, I wasn't given clear direction. Or maybe you should have said what you wanted. But let's hit pause. Imagine instead you take one deep breath. You clarify what you were expecting so I can understand better. That's a response. That's leadership. Maybe that's emotional maturity. That's it means you're in control. Responding gives you the upper hand, even when the situation feels like it's spinning. It allows you to be the calmest person perfect. The calmest person often holds the most power. You know where I see this play out most clearly? In parenting. A child throws a tantrum. They scream. If the parent reacts, yelling back, punishing, losing their own cool, the chaos escalates. But if the parent responds, stance, cart, or structure, the energy shifts. The child begins to feel safe instead of afraid. And that moment becomes a teaching apport your struggle. It's no different in the workplace or in your friendships or even with strangers. Ever had someone snap at you in public? Maybe a short-tempered barista or a strain in traffic? The reaction would be to fire back, match their energy. Responding with calmness or kindness, it defuses pattern, it breaks the pattern, it makes you memorable. You don't rise in life by reacting to everything that irritates you. You rise by responding in ways that align you want to be. And let me be honest, this isn't easy, especially when your emotions are high. It's not easy to take a breath when easy to stay grounded when everything in your nervous system is screaming to fight, freeze, or flee. But that's where your power lies in that moment. The choice to respond with intention rather than react from habit. I had a client once, a high-level executive known for being brilliant but difficult, quick temper, sharp tongue. He kept losing team members because of the reader pressure. When we started working together, we didn't start with strategy. We started with emotional mastery. I taught him one simple ruling whenever you feel you could have 5 in your head before you speak. In those 5 seconds, breathe, feel your feet. Ask, my best self say right now. At first, he failed often, but slowly the space between stimulus and response grew. He began noticing his patterns. He stopped reacting to pressure like leader up as a leader, not just a boss. Within 6 months, team morale was up. His communication was clear. Best of all, he felt peace inside. When you live from response instead of reaction, you stop being a puppet of your emotions. You stop letting the world decide how to take full ownership of your energy, your impact, your leadership. Think of it like this. Reacting is instinct. Responding is skill. Reacting is practice. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So how do you strengthen it? Start small. Notice your triggers. Pay triggers when you feel the heat rise. When someone cuts you off, when your partner forgets something, when a text annoys you, instead of jumping into action, pause. What outcome do I want from this moment? Then speak. Then act. That tiny pause will start to rewire your brain. Over time, your default shifts from reactive to responsive, from chaos to clarity. And that's the shift that changes everything. Your relationships, your leadership, your life. Because in the event that defines your future, it's how you respond to it. And when you learn to respond, not react, maybe you don't just control the moment, the other, it's your destiny. If you want more positivity in your radiant first, if you want loyalty, give loyalty. If you want respect, show respect. This is a leadership truth that goes far workplace. It's a life truth. You are a magnet. And your energy, whether conscious or not, is attracting everything around you. The way you walk into a room, the way you speak, you carry yourself. When things go wrong, people feel that. And more than what you say, more than what you do. Maybe they remember how you made them feel, and the kind of energy you give off determines the quality of the connections you create, the opportunities that come your way, and the type you draw into your life. Let's look at a simple example from daily life. Think about someone you love. Being around lifts your spirits. Even when they say nothing profound, they smile, they look you in their present, grounded, calm. Being around them makes you breathe accident. It's energy. They bring a frequency that elevates the space. They are being the energy they want to lift. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt tension? No one said anything rude. No one yelled, but the energy was heavy. Like walk in, someone's body language was closed off. Maybe there was an unspoken frustration. You felt it without a single word. That's energy too. So the question is going into your spaces. Most people don't even realize they're walking around as carriers of stress, fear, or negativity. They say, I want my team to be innovative. They show up tired, irritated, and unavailable. They say, I want a peaceful home, but they bring door every night. They want positivity, but forget to check the mirror. Because here's the deal. You don't get what you want. This is especially true in leadership. People don't follow titles. They follow energy. Your team isn't just listening to your attitude. If you're anxious, they feel unsafe. If you're angry, they shut down. But if you bring calm confidence, even if you bring hope in hard times, you become the light. I once coached a restaurant manager her team was always stressed and chaotic during dinner service. She had procedures, checklists, meetings, everything on paper perfect, partly off. She was constantly frantic. She'd walk in every shift with a million things on her mind, shouting instructions, sighing when this. I didn't realize that she was the chaos. Her team was just matching energy. We did one exercising. I asked her to walk into the restaurant menu, just breathe, ground herself, visualize the night going smoothly, walk in slowly, smile. Speak with intention, not urgency. After 1 week, the entire dynamic team laughed more. Mistakes dropped. Why? Because the leader brought calm, and calm is contagious. So how do you shift your energy in real life is throwing crew balls. Start with self-awareness. Take a daily energy inventory. Ask yourself, what energy am I living in today? Is it gray, hope, or anxiety, curiosity, or judgment? Maybe your emotional state becomes your enter, leaks into everything you do. Then take ownership. Don't wait for better circumstances to feel better. Don't wait for someone else to set those shoes. You decide to walk into that meeting with enthusiasm. You choose to respond to your partner with patience. You decide to see the challenge as a chasm to spiral. Energy is a choice, and that choice is made over and over again. In moments, in breaths, in responses. It's made when you decide not to gossip, when you discourage instead of criticize, when you take that extra second to smile at the cashier, to compliment a stranger, to say thank you with meaning. But they echo far beyond the moment. You want to be a powerful leader? Then master your energy, deeper relationships, then bring that tension. You want tension, you want better outcomes in life. Then stop reacting and start radiating. I'll tell you one more thing. Energy doesn't lie. You can say all the right quotes, wear all the right clothes, but if your energy is heavy, bitter, or fake, people will feel it. Authenticity is energetic. Integrity is lows, love, joy, peace, certainty. You can't fake those frequencies, but you can cultivate them. When you show up with strong, centered, positive, listen, trust builds. Miracles happen. You stop chasing and start attracting. So before you walk into your next room, your next conversation, pause. Ask yourself, energy am I bringing? Because you're joining the room or draining it. It's either empowering others or pulling them down. There is no neutral. Be the energy you want to attract and waiting to mirror it back in ways you never imagined.